Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. You see a funny meme and don't laugh. Most of the time you are not aware of its context or you have a bad sense of humor. You know the characters of the story and the story becomes very interesting. If you have a brief knowledge of medicine, you seem to understand the language spoken by the body in distress. In general physical examination, we have a regional approach in a sequential manner, but it can be modified due to circumstances and patient's condition. Four things we look in the patient as general. First is the general appearance, second posture and attitude, third consciousness, and fourth is the physique. In general appearance, we look if the patient is well, mildly ill or severely ill. Posture and attitude. We look if the patient is comfortable, dyspneic or in pain. The dyspneic patient might be lying in the bed as in peritonitis, lying propped up as in a patient of severe heart failure, and sitting up and bending forward as in COPD. The patient might be in pain, could be lying still or writhing in the bed depending upon the severity of the pain. Third is consciousness. A normal patient is alert and oriented. Abnormally, he could be confused, drowsy, or unconscious. The unconsciousness of the patient is evaluated by the Glasgow Coma Scale (GCS). It depends upon the eye response, best motor response, and best vocal response. All these responses add up to a score of 15. In deep coma, it can be less than 8. Then is the physique. In physique, we look at the two important parameters. First is the weight, second is the height. As far as weight is concerned, we check if the patient is obese or thin or normal. As far as height is concerned, we see if the actual height of the patient, that is the distance from the head to the toe, is comparable to the arm span or not. Now, what is arm span? Arm span is the distance between the two middle fingers of the patient's hand when his two arms are extended. Depending upon its value, if the height is less than the arm span, this could be a patient of Marfan syndrome, but if the height is greater than the arm span, he could be a patient of achondroplasia, that is dwarfism. After these four things, we start the actual regional approach, starting from the hand, then to the forearm, arm, face, neck, axilla, and then down to the body, up to the feet. In the hand, we look at the shape. He could have short metacarpals as in Turner syndrome, or he could have carpal spasm as in tetany. We look at the size of the hands. The hand of the patient could have normal size or broad. Then we start to look at the nails. In nails, first we take a look at the nail bed. In the nail bed, we look for two things. If the patient's nail bed has pallor or cyanosis. Pallor is actually the absence of normal redness that signifies decreased hemoglobin, that is anemia, and cyanosis is the bluish color due to excess of reduced hemoglobin. It could be either of central or peripheral etiology. Central cyanosis is either due to cardiac or respiratory problem, and peripheral cyanosis could be due to cold, decreased blood supply, or venous obstruction. Central cyanosis is diagnosed when a patient's nose, ear lobules, lips, hands, and feet are cyanosed. That is, they have a bluish color, a bluish tinge. But when only his hands and feet are cyanosed, it is regarded as peripheral cyanosis. Then we look at the nails. We look if the patient has spoon-shaped nails, that is koilonychia. It is present in a patient of anemia. We look at the clubbing. In clubbing, we check the angle between the nail bed and the nail. In cases of lung and heart and some GI diseases which are of malabsorption category, there can be clubbing of fingers. The actual pathophysiology of clubbing is not well understood, but there is a hypothesis that there could be connective tissue hypertrophy which leads to loss of angle between the nail bed and the nail. Then, when looking at the nails, we check for splinter hemorrhages. They are normally present in manual workers or in infective endocarditis patients. We check if the nail bed of the patient has whitish patches called as leukonychia. They are present in hypoalbuminemia patient, and we check if there is pitting of nails, which is present in psoriasis. Then we look at the fingers. In fingers, we start from the tip. There could be painful swelling in pulps of the terminal phalanges, which are oscillar nodes. Further up in the fingers, we look if there is Heberden nodes or Bouchard nodes. Heberden nodes are present in distal interphalangeal joints and Bouchard nodes are present in proximal interphalangeal joints. They are characterized as swellings on the lateral sides of the proximal and distal interphalangeal joints, and they are present in osteoarthritis. We check if there is joint swelling in which there is spindle shaped joints. It characterizes rheumatoid arthritis in the proximal interphalangeal joints. Then we check for the deformity of the fingers. Deformity of the fingers could either be swan neck deformity or boutonniere deformity. They should be differentiated from each other as they are important in the diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis. In osteoarthritis, there is swan neck deformity. The proximal interphalangeal joints are extended and distal interphalangeal joints are flexed. In boutonniere deformity, the proximal interphalangeal joints are flexed and distal interphalangeal joints are extended. We check if there is arachnodactyly, that is, the fingers of the patient might be in a pattern of a spider's legs. Then we take a look at the palm. We again check for anemia in the form of pallor, and if there is palmar erythema, that is the abnormal reddishness of the palm. It could be present in rheumatoid arthritis or disorders in which there is increased estrogen, like decreased clearance in hepatic failure, pregnancy, or oral contraceptive use. We check if there is sweating. Sweating could be idiopathic or due to thyrotoxicosis. We check if there is Dupuytren's contracture, which is actually the thickening of the palmar fascia. It is present in alcoholic cirrhosis. After that, we check the pinching of the skin on the dorsum of the hand. We pinch the skin between the thumb and the other fingers on the dorsum of the hand, and normally it should retract very soon. Then we check the pulse in the forearm. We check the radial pulse. We look for the rate, rhythm, volume, character. We compare the one pulse of the body, that is radial pulse, with other pulse like brachial pulse, femoral pulse, and we usually check for the delay, and we also check the condition of vessel wall. Then in the arm, we check the blood pressure either through palpatory method or auscultatory method. Auscultatory method is more accurate. Then we go on to the face. First we take a brief look at the face. We look at the general appearance. We check if the patient has mood-like face as in Cushing syndrome or expressionless face like in Parkinson's. There are also other faces you can remember from your medicines book. Then we take a look at the eye. We check if the eyes of the patient are somewhat protruding out as in proptosis or Graves' disease, or they are sunkening as in dehydration. We check for puffiness around the eyes. It can be due to edema caused by decreased oncotic pressure due to decreased proteins as in nephrotic syndrome. We look for Yellow plaques on eyelids, which are xanthelasmas, present in hyperlipidemia patients. We check the color of lower conjunctiva. If there is pallor, then it characterizes anemia. We look for the color of the sclera. If it is yellowish, it characterizes jaundice. Now taking a look at the color of conjunctiva and color of sclera. When you give a command to the patient to look below and we raise the upper eyelid of the patient, we are looking at jaundice. But when we give command to the patient to look above and we lower the lower eyelid, we are looking at lower conjunctiva for anemia. At the face, we look for rash and color of skin. Malar rash or butterfly rash characterizes SLE, systemic lupus erythematosus, and color of skin signifies if he has red cheeks, it could be a case of mitral stenosis, thus the typical mitral facies. We look for abnormal growth of hair like in males present in females, which is actually hirsutism. We check the parotid glands. Bilateral swelling signifies mumps and unilateral swelling signifies a tumor. We take a look at the lips. Cyanose lips can signify cyanosis, which could be only central in origin, not peripheral. We take a look at the tongue. At the dorsum of the tongue is actually the side which we see when we ask someone to take their tongue out of their mouth. The side that we are looking is the dorsum of the tongue. In the dorsum of the tongue, we check three things. We check for dryness, as in dehydration or mouth breathers. We check for pallor, as in anemia or cyanosis. In the undersurface of the tongue, we check for yellowness, which characterizes jaundice. We take a look at the size of the tongue, which is increased, that is microglossia, present in amyloidosis and acromegaly. Then we check below the tongue, that is we go on to the neck. In the neck, we take a look at the thyroid. Thyroid is a very important organ, a very important gland in the neck region. We first inspect, then palpate, then auscultate it. In inspection, we also can perform the swallow test to check if the central swelling in the neck is either of thyroid origin or other tissue. In palpation, we feel the consistency of the thyroid gland. In auscultation, we can check abnormal blood vessel sounds which are bruit. We also check for Pemberton signs. Pemberton sign is present in retrosternal thyroid tissue. In this sign, we ask the patient to lift his or her arms above the head. If it is a case of retrosternal thyroid, stridor, congested face and neck veins distended are noted. We take a look at the neck veins. First, we ask the patient to have 2 or 3 pillows below his head when he is lying supine on a bed. Then we approach the patient from the right side and we check if the angle between the horizontal and the neck of the patient should be 45 degree. At the right side, we observe for venous pulsation on the jugular vein. Jugular vein is present between the sternocleidomastoid and central trachea. We also can measure the jugular venous pressure. Then we palpate the lymph nodes. The lymph nodes are palpated by the pulp of the middle finger and the ring finger in a very sequential manner in head and neck. First, we palpate the submental group, submandibular, pre and postauricular, occipital, posterior, and anterior cervical groups, which are namely the upper, middle, and lower cervical. After palpating the lymph node of the neck, we check the axilla. The important tissue in the axilla are the lymph nodes, We also check them in a very sequential manner. After approaching the patient, suppose we want to check the right axillary lymph nodes. What we will do is we would shake our right hand with the patient's right hand. After that, we'll ask the patient to lift his right arm above his head. We'll place our fingers of the left hand in the right axilla of the patient in such a manner that our palms are facing toward the chest of the patient. After placing our fingers of the left hand, we ask the patient to lower his right hand and place it on his chest. Then we start palpating the lymph nodes. The first groups which are palpated are apical, central, and medial. In this manner we can only palpate these three group of lymph nodes. After that, between the thumb and other fingers, we palpate the anterior group of lymph nodes in the anterior axillary fold. Then we check the lateral group of axillary lymph node by our right hand. If we are examining the right axilla of the patient, we will observe the lateral group of right axilla with our right hand. You can remember this by the lateral thing. All the laterals of the axilla, either right or left, are palpated by the same hand. Right axilla will be palpated by the right hand of the examiner. So we will palpate the right axillary lymph node by our right hand, which are present in the upper part of humerus. Then going behind the patient, we will palpate the right posterior axillary lymph node between our thumb and the rest of the fingers with our same hand, that is right hand. After the axillary lymph node, we palpate for lymph nodes in the groin region. After the groin region, we go on to the feet. In the feet, again we check for clubbing and chylonychia and cyanosis. One important thing is the loss of hair. Loss of hair in the feet signifies peripheral vascular disease. And then we check the edema. The four important sites to check the edema in whole of the body is dorsum of foot, behind medial malleolus, shin and sacrum only in bedfast patient. We check the pedal edema behind the medial malleolus. It is very important clinically to differentiate between these two types of edema, which are pitting edema versus the non-pitting edema. Behind the medial malleolus, above 5 cm, we palpate the skin with our thumb for 5 seconds, and we observe if the skin or the pit retracts easily or quickly, or it delays. In case of pitting edema, there is a pit which is observed and it retracts, and the skin of the pit retracts very slowly. A pitting edema signifies a transudative type of edema which is venous in origin, and it signifies congestive cardiac failure, chronic liver disease, or chronic kidney disease. In case of non-pitting edema, which is exudative in nature and arterial in nature, signifies myxedema as in hypothyroidism, lymphedema or lipedema. We check for the edema at the region of shin, that is just above the bony surface, to check the extent of edema. At the pedal side, that is the medial malleolus, we check if the patient has pitting or non-pitting edema. At the shin, we are checking the extent of the edema if it has reached the lower limb in a proper way. It is important in the differential diagnosis of different causes of edema, especially in the pitting category. Then we take a look at the respiratory rate. We count for full minute. The normal respiratory rate is 14 to 16 per minute. We check the temperature by keeping the thermometer in the mouth, axilla, or in the rectum. The normal reading which is obtained is 98.8 6 Fahrenheit. Now it's time for a quick recap. In general physical examination, first thing we note is the general appearance, then physique, then consciousness, then posture and attitude. We start with the hand of the patient. We take a look at the shape, size, nails and fingers. Then we come on to the palm. After the hand, we check for pulse in the forearm. After it, we check the blood pressure in the arm. Then we go on to the face. We take a look at the general appearance, the puffiness, proptosis, then thalasma, lower conjunctiva, rash, skin, hirsutism, parotid gland and lips. After it, we take a look at the tongue, then the neck. In the neck, we inspect, palpate, auscultate and check for Pemberton sign in thyroid. Then we take a look at the neck veins and then at the lymph nodes of the neck. Then we take a look at the axillary lymph nodes. We approach the patient and palpate the lymph nodes in a very sequential manner. After the axillary lymph nodes, we check the groin lymph nodes. After it, we go on to the feet, checking for clubbing, chylonychia, cyanosis, loss of hair and edema, and differentiate that edema, either it is pitting or non-pitting. Then after the feet, we check the respiratory rate for full minute, and after it we check for temperature. So hope you like this video. Kindly subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Thank you.